Household growing up was, pretty much me getting beat up by an older brother and older sister. And I think a lot of that was, where I developed my toughness from. But, a very athletic family. Sports were a big picture in our family, and that's kind of, what everything was based on.
Sports was a huge part of this. Ed and I were both athletes as kids, so I think that filtered through. He was a baby. I mean, baby, like in my arms baby. And we went to Mass on Sunday, and he spun around like a top. I mean, you were just fighting him constantly, spinning around, spinning around. And this man goes, honey, he's either a football player or a hockey player. And I said, okay, that was him.
Growing up in the Zbikowski household meant that if you weren't watching the Bears in action, you'd be sitting next to Dad watching the fights. Being a former amateur fighter himself, Ed Zbikowski was a huge boxing fan who would often take his kids to local gyms to watch legends in action.
I really started, fighting competitively when I was, 9 years old, started training then, but I remember seeing my first fight when I was like 4 or 5 years old, and it was just something I always wanted to do. Got tired of getting beat up all the time.
He came home, he wanted to have his first fight. I think he was like 10 years old. But, if you get an 8 count, if you get knocked down, you're done boxing. So he started working on defense so he could keep boxing. So he studied films, talked to people, learned it so he could stay at it, because he knew once he took an 8 count, he'd be done.
And by the way, his nose was not broken by boxing. That was a 16-inch softball he took in the face from his brother. So it's funny because people would look at him and go, oh yeah, he's got a boxer's nose. That was from the 16-inch softball in the face.
Zbikowski amassed a 60-13 amateur record off the football field. Then last summer, Top-Rank Promotions offered him $25,000 to make his professional boxing debut at Madison Square Garden.
After doing some research on Tommy and hearing about his Golden Glove exploits back in Chicago, I knew he had boxing in his background. He had told me that somewhere in the future he might want to even look into fighting on a professional level.
Well, ever since I've been at Notre Dame, I've known about Tommy and his boxing, and then we started rooming together sophomore year, and I've been rooming together ever since, so I was kind of had the front line on everything that was going to happen.
All of a sudden, one day he walks in the office, and he gives me that look. I said, okay, what happened? And he goes, well, I need to talk to you. I said, and it was about that, fighting in Madison Square Garden. And, we talked about it, and we felt that as long as the NCAA would let him be in compliance, I would go ahead and let him fight. I've never, in all my years of coaching, have had to deal with a guy that wanted to professional fight and play football. As a matter of fact, most of the teams I was with, we wouldn't even let him ride a motorcycle, let alone go into a professional fight. I knew that I left myself open to public scrutiny if he would have gone in the fight and got hurt, but fortunately for me, it was 49 seconds later. We didn't have to worry about that one anymore.
I always thought that he was a better boxer. So I thought that he had special talents in boxing. I don't think that you're going to be, big enough. You're not going to be, good enough to be able to compete on the Division I level. There's not that many boxing heavyweights. So the odds are you got a better chance of succeeding in boxing than in football. But he proved me wrong.
I'll always be boxing, whether it's training, just showing up to the gym, trying to get, a quick sparring. And
I don't know that I look that far ahead. You just take it a day at a time, and God bless every day that you have. So I don't know that we say, gee, you know what? I picture him in a mansion in Lake Forest, and, he's going to be driving his cars, and he's going to have his crib, wherever that is, and, whatever. I don't look at any of that stuff, because, that all could change tomorrow. That's my thing, is more the education. And then all those other things are a blessing.